And we are back. We have a new map today, map of China. We're going to do this the same way that we did the map of ancient India. This will end up being cut out, put into your spiral notebook. We will be cutting it out along this border. The top title will be going into the spiral notebook. This compass will end up going on to the map. You will be making a key, same way as you did with your map of ancient India. So don't cut anything out yet. Wait till we're done with the entire thing. Leave it on there for coloring purposes. Don't cut anything out or throw anything away that I don't tell you to. Okay? Follow the directions very carefully. Everything matters. Everything counts until I say it doesn't. Okay? So make sure that you've got these out in front of you and look at your Google Classroom. In the stream, you are going to find the directions in case you get behind, or if you just want to be reminded of what needs to go along the colors, the shapes, whatever. You can go ahead and look at that. If you need to work on it later on, you can look at that. But yes, the directions are in the stream, and very importantly, follow-up questions are in the stream. So you can go ahead and open that. What you do need to know for sure is that you need 5 colored pencils. Now, if you are working on this in class, you are going to need to share, unless, of course, you have your own, like me. Now, there is definitely a benefit to having your own. First of all, you can have whatever brand you want, whatever kind you want. For example, I have these erasable ones. Second of all, you know that you've got them. You don't have to worry that they're not there in the bin. And you don't have to worry about sharing them, right? So I do always recommend that you have your own colored pencils whenever you possibly can. Okay, so if you haven't gotten your own colored pencils yet, it's never too late. Okay, you can get just a simple pack of 12 colored pencils. It doesn't have to be a fancy pack, just your regular old 12 pack of Crayola or Prang, whatever, colored pencils. Doesn't have to be anything fancy. It doesn't have to be the erasables like this. Okay, it can be just these. These are Crayolas. Okay, I don't happen to have a purple in here, which is why I've got multiple brands. Okay, you can mix and match, doesn't matter. If you are using the ones that I provide, though, once they're gone, they're gone, especially this close to the end of the year. Okay, all right, so we're going to start with labeling. Well, first we're going to do the first thing that it does say with the black. We are going to outline ancient China with black, a nice bold outline around ancient China so that we can just see where that is. And then we're going to do the outlining, and then we'll do the rest, or sorry, the labeling, and then we'll do the rest of the coloring. Okay, so let's go ahead and start with that. Some stuff I'm going to use marker for just because it's going to show up better. But of course, you don't have to do that. I do it only because it will show up. So what you'll notice so far is that the border of ancient China pretty much follows the border as it is. Okay. I'm just gonna go ahead and continue here. Notice how I just do small chunks at a time. Outlining this huge nation is going to take a while because it is quite large. But you do eventually get it done. Okay, so now we can pretty much start with some of the labeling, okay? But before we do, the most important thing is to do the labeling, the tracing, and the outlining before we do any of the shading in, okay? So we can add the rivers, okay? We can label the cities. We can outline and label the Yellow and the Huanghe River. Now, of course, those are going to be in blue. So the Yellow River is a little something like that. I'm going to go ahead and trace over it a little bit better so you can see it. Again, I'll use markers so you can see. You just go ahead and stick with your colored pencil. Only reason I'm using markers so you can see it. Now, is this going to be perfect? Of course not. Okay. And again, this is the Yellow River. Okay. And then the other major river in China is the Yangtze River, which is right about here. So I'm going to go ahead and trace over that one also. Get that up there a little bit more. It's about like that. That is the Yangtze. Now the Yellow River, by the way, we'll go ahead and add this on here, has another name. Let me give you the other name of the Yellow River. We'll put that in parentheses, and that is the Huanghe River. So that is actually its Chinese name. Okay, Huanghe, not Huanghe. Okay, it is pronounced Huanghe. So do write that down also. I know it doesn't say that on the directions, but I would like you to still write that down. And the Yangtze also has another name. It is Changjiang. And Changjiang means long river. And that is because it is the longest river in China. And it runs about 3,900 miles from one end to the other. Okay? So that is China's longest river, the Yangtze or Changjiang, which means long river. Little tidbit for you there. So now that we have these two cities, or these two rivers, we can go ahead and label two of the cities that are on the list, and that's because these two cities are on one of the rivers, and that would be the cities of Nanking and Shanghai, and they are both on the Yangtze or Changjiang River. So Nanking is right here, and Shanghai is right about there. Now, if you're not sure, what those two words say as far as spelling goes, go ahead and look at the directions that you've got in the Google Classroom, in the stream. Okay, so that's two of the cities that we can cross right off of the list. The other one, Beijing, we'll put those on there when we get the Great Wall of China. Okay, because that is right along the Great Wall. Okay, we can use landmarks to help us with that. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and label those bodies of water. Okay, the other bodies of water, the Yellow Sea, the East China Sea, the South China Sea. Okay, and those, of course, are labeled in blue. Okay, so the Yellow Sea is up here. Okay, the East China Sea. Down there. And the South China Sea. Okay, and we will color those later on. Remember, the only reason I'm using marker is to make sure that you can see this. Okay, you should be using the colored pencils, and that is for erasability. Even though you don't have the erasable pencils necessarily, it's still more erasable than marker. Okay. Okay, a couple of other really easy things to label. We can go all the way down to the purple section. Okay, Taiwan, Japan, Korea, Russia, India, and Mongolia. And we're also going to trace the borders of those as well. Okay. Okay, so Russia is going to be up here. And this is Russia's border. So for those of you doing this in my 6th grade class, you can see how close China is to Russia. Okay, currently even, it's a 6th and 7th grade class. Those of you in my 7th grade class, this here is Mongolia, which you just learned about the Mongols. Okay, so you can see how easy it was for them to invade Russia, right? And also why it is that they came into northern China first. Here's northern China. Okay, so over here, so this is also still going to be Russia. But this here is going to be Korea. Notice I am not going to put a line in the middle there where that one is in the middle. And that's because that is the demarcation line between North and South Korea. Okay, this whole peninsula here is Korea. Okay? This whole thing. I'm even going to do this. That's Korea, and that's Korea. It's all Korea. Over here, we have Japan. This is also Japan. This is also Japan. Japan has a whole bunch of islands. Okay? All these islands here, also Japan. Okay? Japan is what's called an archipelago. Okay? It is made up of a bunch of islands. It's got five main islands. One's really big, and then some medium islands, and some small islands, and some really teeny islands. Okay. And then right here we have Taiwan. I'm going to go ahead and put this border around Japan here. I'm going to put it around just like this whole thing here, basically. I just can't do it. I can't bring myself to put it around the whole area. I so want to do every individual island. You can't even imagine how much I want to do every individual island. Don't do it, Miss Gig. Don't do it. I'm gonna do it. I'll stop there. Okay, and then we have India. And India is a funny shaped little place, big place. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and shade in the regions that we just outlined because we don't need to do anything else with those. So we can kind of check those off the list now. What I'm not going to shade in though yet is Mongolia, because we do need to add the Gobi Desert. We'll be shading part of Mongolia in a little bit after we add the Gobi Desert, which we'll go ahead and do basically right now. So we're going to go to the green section, okay, and that says to label the Himalaya Mountains and draw mountain peaks. Then we will outline and label the Gobi Desert and fill it with small dots. And we will label the Tibetan Plateau and then shade it in. so let's go ahead and do those. So this is where we need the green. So I will definitely start with the pencil, and then I will go over it with marker. Okay, so the Gobi Desert is going to be right about here, about like that. Okay. I think I might just keep this with the pencil. I can do it dark enough to where y'all can see it. I think, especially because I'm going to shade the whole thing in. So there we have the outline and the green dots and the labeling. Remember, desert only has one S. You know how to remember that there's only one S in desert and there's two S's in desert? It's actually pretty easy. So desert has sand, one S, but dessert is strawberry shortcake, two S's. Little tricks like that. So there is the Gobi Desert. And once again, if you can't read that still though, think about where I already told you to look, and look there. So there's our Gobi Desert right there. Now that that's done, we can go back and shade in the rest of Mongolia. Yes, the Gobi Desert obviously is in Mongolia. You can see that it's within borders, but we needed to see in which part, how much of Mongolia the Gobi Desert is, which is why we had to shade it and put the borders around it first. And you will notice that it does extend partway into China as well. Okay, so the next thing we need the green for is the Tibetan Plateau, the Himalayan mountains. And that one's going to be over here. So Tibetan Plateau, we're going to come around here, just above the Huanghe, crossing over it, not touching it. Sorry, the Changjiang. Crossing the Huanghe, or Yellow River, which, by the way, is also known as the River of Sorrows. You'll find out more about that. And then going up there. Okay, so that is going to be our Tibetan Plateau. And the Himalaya are down here. As far as China goes. So I am going to go darker over the mountains here, because I am going to want them to stand out when I shade this in. I added just a little bit of my own touch here, a little bit of brown, because the Himalayas are pretty rocky, and also blue because they're very cold. Okay, especially the higher up you get. Okay, all right, but now we can go ahead and label this and color it in. Okay, so this is the Himalaya Mountains and the Tibetan Plateau. Okay, So I'm not going to shade that in just yet because I do still need to take the Silk Road and the Great Wall of China across the Tibetan Plateau. So I'm not going to label, or I'm not going to shade it in just yet. Okay? All right. But that is where the Tibetan Plateau is, how much of China it takes up. It's a pretty good chunk of it. Okay? The Himalayan mountains. And those do actually extend a little bit down in here, but we're just showing where it is, where they are in China here. Okay? All right. So our next step, though, is using red. We are going to make a broken or dashed line. Okay, that is going to be for the Silk Road. Okay, so the Silk Road on our map is going to start right about here. And it's going to actually end up going off the map because the Silk Road goes from China all the way past here. It goes to Europe. Okay, now the Silk Road actually is not just one road. Okay, it does have many branches. This is just kind of giving a general idea of the Silk Road. But it is by no means the only route of the Silk Road. In fact, the Silk Road even included branches that used water. Okay, this is just kind of an idea of the Silk Road. This was possibly the earliest path of the Silk Road. For our purposes for this map, we're just going to do one road. Okay, and that's going to go from here over to here, and I'm actually going to put an arrow at the end here to show that it keeps going. Okay, so we've got this nice dashed or broken line. Okay, and while you're doing it on yours, I'm going to go ahead and trace over it a little bit darker. I'm going to go ahead and use pink just to make it stand out. Okay. I cannot seem to find a red. Wait. Nope, cannot seem to find a red marker. So, just for purposes of this, I'm going to use pink. But it will do the job that needs to be done. And I will remember to do that arrow to show that it is going to continue much further. Okay. I do have a red, but it's a bit too thick to have done this, I think. Then again, maybe it's perfect. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and label that Silk Road. Okay. And then we have the Great Wall. What is the Great Wall? And after we get the Great Wall, then we can put our missing city of Beijing. Where is the Great Wall of China? So the Great Wall of China, I'm going to start with my pencil in case I need to erase. Starts right about here and ends up over here with a little dip down in here. Alright, so let me go over that with my marker that I found is just fine to use. Now I am going to have a little break here, but that doesn't mean there's actually a break. It just means I don't want to draw up the wall across my words. So it does cross the river in 2 points. The Yellow River comes down to it again here. It does cross the Silk Road a little bit right here, and it goes right between the Tibetan Plateau and the Gobi Desert. And now we can label the Great Wall, and we can also label Beijing. So this here is the Great Wall. And Beijing is right about here. Pretty close. Exactly. I'm sure not, but close enough. As we say in my household, close enough for government work. Finally, we can now shade in the Tibetan Plateau in green. Yeah. Okay, now the question is, does anybody see the one thing that I have not yet done? The final step. There's one thing left that has not yet been done. If you guessed shading in the bodies of water, you are correct. So all this water over here needs to be shaded in. Okay? Anything that is water needs to be shaded in. So let's start with that. So shading in all that water there. Now I did go ahead and shade in some of the water that have to, but I think it's important to know what part of this map is water and what part is land. Okay, because there are some parts on here that you don't realize it's water, you don't realize it's water, meaning you think it's land. For example, this over here. You didn't have to identify it as water, but that's the Bay of Bengal. Remember that from your India map. Over here we've got the Arabian Sea. Okay? All this other stuff in here is land. Right? And you'll notice that I did put borders around it. I'm going to, for my own purposes, I am going to shade it in. Okay? I outlined it in orange. You know, I think I'm going to go ahead and shade it in orange. But am I going to take points off of yours if you don't? No, I'm not. Okay? And if you do shade yours in, your areas that don't need to be, you know, that's fine, that's great. But make sure that you shade in. Don't shade in like this here. Okay, that's part of China. See, it's within the borders. Okay. I am doing this to identify what is land, what is China, what's not China. Okay, because yes, there are the borders, of course. Color, I think, makes it stand out a lot better. And I am a big stickler for detail. And to be quite honest, I'm thinking I'm going to shade in the rest of China too. Because like right down here, it's like, okay, so is this little cutout, since this is cut out here was water, is this also water? Well, actually no. This is also land. This is actually a country known as Laos. Oh no, sorry, this one's Laos. Yeah, this one is Laos. My apologies. Okay, it extends way far down here. This here is not part of that Japanese archipelago. This is Manila. So hence the reason for my coloring. All right. So yeah, I think I am going to go ahead and shade in the rest of China. I'm going to go with pink. And why pink? Well, because why not? Okay, that looks about good. And that should do it. I believe we have everything done. We have the outline around ancient China. We have Shanghai, Beijing, and Nanking labeled. We have the Yellow Sea, the East China Sea, and the South China Sea labeled. We have Taiwan, Japan, Korea, Russia, India, and Mongolia labeled and lightly shaded in. We have the bold broken line for the Silk Road. We have this for the Great Wall, all in red. We have the Himalaya Mountains. We have the Gobi Desert. We have the Tibetan Plateau. We have the Yangtze or Changjiang River. We have the Yellow or Huanghe River. And everything is shaded in. Excellent. And yes, doing all this extra stuff is the kind of stuff that can get you. What do you think? All right. So the next step is getting this off of being a loose piece of paper and being in your spiral notebook. So this is where you're going to need the scissors. Now, of course, if you are in class right now, you will notice that I have taken the scissors out of the bins. Okay, so you might need to be doing this at home or wait for me to come back. Okay, I have a reason for this. So we're going to cut along the borders. We're going to cut out that compass. We're going to relieve the paper of the title so that we can put it in the spiral. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. Remember, when you're cutting here, you do not want to throw away this compass rose. You are going to use it. So set that aside. When I get down to this end, I'm going to stop there. Don't want to cut on that. That would be bad. Okay. Here, very carefully, very straight, cut this off. So yes, we do have one corner missing. I cut off that extra little orange piece that was right there. I'm going to trim around this a little bit. Okay, once I have all the pieces to this puzzle, 1, 2, and 3, now I can throw away the scraps. In the trash can, not on the floor, and not in the bins, the colored pencil bins, the supply bins. No, in the trash can. Okay, for my 6th graders, you're going to put this map after your vocabulary. For my 7th graders, this map is going to go after your Genghis Khan flow map. Okay, once again, for 6th graders, it's going after your vocabulary. For 7th graders, it goes after your Genghis Khan flow map. All right. This is what happens when you use marker, which is why I don't recommend doing it on something where you need to write on both sides. Okay, a little bit of blue. You don't need to color the whole thing. Don't need to use the, oops, I overstepped that a little bit. You don't need to use the glue stick like a crayon all the way around. A little bit in the middle here. And get the edges off a little bit. And roll it all the way down when you're done, please. Make it click. Yes, we'll open it again in a second, but until then, we'll scroll it down. I'm going to move it over to the side because we have to leave room for the key. press that down nicely. All right, looks like I need just a little bit more. I may have let it dry too much. I'm going to go ahead and put it right there. Down there. Same thing over here. Oh, too high. That's okay because I'm going to actually use that for my title. Now you're going to notice that the title is going to go right back in the corner there. Scroll. But it's actually lower than it was. Just a little bit over on the edge there. Went over the edge. Not what I wanted to do, but that's okay. When I close my spiral, I will fold that in a bit. Because in my binder, I do not want it to get messed up. So if you did like I did, there are a couple of things that you can do. You can just move it over and have this overlap onto the map a bit. Okay, which will be fine because it's still on a part that's not going to be, that's not labeled. Okay, and there's a little bit of space there. Or make sure that it doesn't get mangled in your backpack. You can do that, and then it'll still be like that. Okay, and then when you take a picture of it, make sure that that shows. Again, scrolling all the way down, making it click. Except I still need my compass rose, which is right here. And I'm going to put that in India. Because I don't need India for anything else except to know that it's India. Make sure the S is on the bottom. There we go. All right, and now for the key. Okay, so I do have a couple of different things here. So first I am going to identify that the pink for me is China. Okay. Purple is going to be neighboring regions. I'll just put neighbor. Okay. I'll shade those in a minute. Of course, those blue squiggly lines. Reverse. Always reverse. Even though it's labeled, we still want to make sure and say that this is the Great Wall of China. Then, of course, we have that dashed line. Which is the Silk Road. I don't like that G. There we go. Okay. And then we have our mountains. Keep wanting to turn those triangles into A's. And then we have the desert area. There's my green. This. Okay. And then we have just the plateau. I think that is all. Okay. Get my pink for China. Shade that in. And my purple for the neighboring regions. Okay, and that is just fine. Okay, so there is our key. All right, we don't need to, say what the orange is. Okay, technically we didn't need to do the pink. Okay, because you don't need to, you don't actually even have to do the pink. I did the pink because I made pink. I'm going to do that and call it major cities. That would be for Shanghai, Nanking, and Beijing. Okay. And there we go. The final product. in all its glory. Okay, and now on the back side of this is where you are going to write out the questions on the follow-up question sheet that is in the stream. It is connected with the instructions for this map, okay, with all the details on it. So you need to write out the questions and answer them. Okay, you actually do get points for writing the question. Okay, so write the question, answer the question, race format. Okay, so these are the 5 questions. Again, they are in the Google Classroom, in the stream, posted with the directions for the map that I just did with you. You could just copy as I go, did it as a demonstration, or you could do it by going just with the instructions. Either way, the questions are right with those directions. Okay, they're right after the directions, same attachment. Okay, you need to write the questions down and then answer them in race format. Okay, now number 1, why were China's major cities located near water? Now, if you can look at that map and get a really good idea, little kind of a common sense kind of an idea, then you can answer that question pretty simply. However, if you want to search it up, use Google, you can go ahead and do that also. Okay? If you're going to Google it, just put a little notation at the end, like a citation, just like you did with the documents. Just tell me that you Googled it. Okay? Just be honest. Tell me that you Googled it, and that's fine. Okay? Just let me know. Okay. So that's if you Google it, tell me that you do. If you don't Google it, you don't have to put anything. Okay? All right. Number 2, what was one geographical feature that helped to isolate China? Okay, isolate was a vocabulary word that we had before. Okay, it means to separate. Okay, to separate something or someone from a bigger part or a bigger group. Okay, you can look that up. You can go back to vocabulary. I believe it was either chapter 3 for the Israelites, or it was chapter 7 for India. Okay, it was one of those. Or you can just Google it. Okay, if you don't remember what I just said. Okay, number 3, which country that borders China on the map? And of course, you're going to just look at the ones that we actually labeled. Okay, don't look at the ones that weren't labeled, just the ones that we labeled. Which country that borders China would be the easiest to travel to? Why? So this is a 2-part question. You need to answer both parts. Okay? Number 4, why did the Silk Road, that is shown on the map, by the way, why did the Silk Road, shown on the map, travel to the northwest, because it goes that way, which is northwest, instead of to the southwest, which is that way? Okay, so why did it go that way instead of that way? Okay, and just look at the map. The map answers that question. And number 5, would you have rather lived in North, South, east, west, or central, so in the middle, China? And again, two-part question, why? You need to answer both parts. Okay? So that means you basically have 7 questions here, even though it says 5. Because this is another one, this is another one. So we've got 5, 6, 7. Need to answer all of them. Okay? And just basically the things that I pointed out. Okay? All right. Get her done. See you later. Come on, turn off the video. Are you still here? Why are you still here? Turn off the video. Finish your map. Answer the questions. Oh, yeah. Don't forget to like and subscribe.